Hello, it's John from Indonesia. In today's video, I'm going to be discussing or sharing my experience with becoming financially independent at the age of 38, which is actually very, very late. Everybody has different measure of success. Some of us measure success financially, but I kind of grew up in a, what do you call it, in a safe zone, because I actually come from a well-to-do family, and my parents worked very hard to get to where they are now. I remember being very, middle class when I was, a baby, and then life kept improving and opportunities kept, coming our way. We got into better schools, and I was schooled overseas in Singapore and then in the US. So I felt like my circumstance is a little bit different, and I'm not saying that I am currently successful or anything. I'm not. But this video is meant purely for entertainment. So I guess let's start in the beginning of my career. I graduated from Parsons School of Design in New York for fashion. And at the time, when I was graduating, I did receive pretty good, what's the word for it? My thesis collection received very good response. So I was in Dazed and Confused magazine in the UK. Saks Fifth Avenue did display my collection in their windows, and I was selected as, one of the 15, or I can't remember, that it's so long ago. But I was actually a pretty rebel student. I didn't really follow the curriculum, but I did things my own way, and when the teachers asked for 5 looks, I would make 8 or something like that, So it was quite surprising that at the end of when I was graduating, that I would get, I wouldn't say successful. There are a lot of people who were more successful than me, and I know a lot of my classmates now are actually quite famous designers, still in New York. But yeah, so basically at the time, my parents just said, do you want to continue with your line? Just do it, professionally. I said, sure. I had a lot of internship experiences beforehand. So yeah, I did that. I did a menswear brand for 2 years in New York City. I wasn't profitable at all. We did trade shows, and we were stocked in many different countries, Singapore, Tokyo. We had a store in Dubai, bunch of stores in the US. So they found me through my showroom, a fashion showroom, or I would also knock on doors. I would email people, I would share with them my lookbook and things like that. The business was growing, but then it was, again, living in New York at the time, my expenses were definitely higher than my income. And then 2009 happened, so that's the economy crisis in New York, and I think the rest of the world. I don't really know the exact details on that, but I do know that there was economic hardships. The buyers stopped coming to New York, and at that time I was already exploring manufacturing in Shanghai. So I figured, hey, why don't I just move to Shanghai? Because that was the next, this growing economy. It wasn't really affected by the bad economy that New York was expecting at the time. So I left in 2009 and to Shanghai, and over there I lived for 5 years. I kept on doing the menswear brand. I explored, production, sourcing. So my background is actually in fashion design. In case you guys didn't know, I'm actually a very, very good designer. I do a lot of good tech pack, and I had to brush up my Chinese because I learned Chinese only when I was in Singapore in high school. So I had to learn a lot of, how to read a contract, how to talk to people and things like that. So China was a really, 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 really good experience. We're going to talk about that in another episode. But yeah, I lived there. I had one store that did really well. It was a French old house that we rented. And then I renovated it, and it was in a prominent area behind Huahai Lu. I don't know if you know where that is. A lot of expats and locals, so when they come by the store, they'll be like, oh my God, we got to get something, because the store design was really interesting. It was the old French style design, but then it was a bit lofty. It's got a bit of a French, design. It's really interesting. But the clothing itself were nice too. It's very, very wearable, but it's got some design elements to it that stood out from, the rest of the brands at the moment. So I actually was a bit profitable at the time. But then any amount of money that we got, I actually tried to expand. So we tried to open in 2 different malls, one in Xintiandi, also in Shanghai. That is the number 1 shopping area at the time. That didn't go so well, so we lost some money there. And then I tried to open a franchise in Singapore. I don't know if my friends remember that, but we had a really nice opening, and I had a lot of Singapore friends growing up. And they really helped me promote the store and things like that. It was in Orchard Road too, so it was a prime shopping area. But it was also a big mistake because at the time Singapore was transitioning, where Orchard Road is no longer the destination for fashion or for anything basically, because there are so many neighborhood malls that opened up in Singapore that retail has spread out a bit more. So that again bankrupted us. So after 5 years in Shanghai, I'm back to like that one store that did well. And at the time, Taobao, Alibaba, all this was rising. A lot of malls were actually opened up at the time, left and right. And I figured, you know what, I don't know if I'm strong enough to go on, and I don't see myself living in China forever anyways. So there was a dilemma at the time, and I did something stupid. Like, I know that my parents were hoping to have a successor in their family business. They were hoping to get some help. And I thought at the time, hey, why don't I, close down Shanghai, call it a day, and come back and help my parents. There's also another reason why I left China at the time. There was a conflict between me and an employee. One of the store managers who's been with me for 3 years, she sued me. So I'm not gonna talk about that now, but that is also one of the reasons why I was heartbroken and I left China. But I did learn a lot from that experience. I learned a lot about professionalism, about forgiveness, and we'll discuss that in a whole new video because it is a pretty interesting and long story by itself. So I stupidly moved back to Indonesia and quickly absorbed into my family's business, coming in to help them. And that is when things didn't go so well. My dad was not the best mentor or leader, and the company has been doing fine. We do window blinds, by the way, like your wooden blinds, your vertical blinds, and things like that. We're also the number 1 manufacturer and also distributor in Indonesia. So it is a pretty big company and it's run well for 30 something years. So I came in, of course, having a few ideas, of my own that were very quickly shut down. I felt like I didn't belong. I was actually there for a year plus. And I honestly cannot tell you my achievements. I don't have any. So I was just doing day-to-day things. I was just dilly-dallying. I tried learning about pricing. I tried to restructure the pricing. I was shut down. There were a lot of things basically that didn't go so well. That was my biggest regret. And then I resigned. And I was also trying to maintain a good relationship with my dad at the time. That's why I decided to resign, because things weren't going so well. I was getting into arguments. He was yelling at me at some point, and that wasn't healthy. So my advice to all of you Indonesian people overseas, don't come back. Don't come back, because if you come back from wherever you are, Europe, US, Australia, once you come back, you can't leave Indonesia again. Indonesia is just an undesirable country to hire foreign manpower from. We're behind the Philippines. So yeah, we're going to talk about that again. Stay tuned. I have so much to share in this channel, but I digress. So I was working with my dad at the time, and things were doing okay. I was just spending credit card money because I was working for the family. So I was not, financially independent at the time yet. And then I moved on. At the time, I was like trying to find jobs and things like that. And thankfully, my friend Ferdo introduced me to a friend, Celine, who is now my business partner in everything that I do now. Celine was working at Zalora, which is an online fashion e-commerce platform, which is perfect. When I came to the interview, they looked at my portfolio because my portfolio was everywhere. I had fashion design. I did my own photo shoot at the time for my fashion brand. I did basically the whole business, the retail, the visual merchandising, the merchandising, marketing. So I didn't know what I was being interviewed for at Zalora, and I was offered a position as head of production. And I was like, what is the head of production? So apparently it was basically the person, the head of department in charge of the catalog. That includes the photo studio, and it also includes the marketplace where I have to quality control all the SKUs or all the clothing stock keeping units that were coming in by, from business to customers. Because Zalora works in multiple levels. We have a warehouse system, but we also are online marketplace. So I was running that for like a year, and that was the best year of my life. Not only did I had a good team, great leaders, great mentors, I learned a lot, but I was also salaried. But disappointingly, I was given a local salary. So despite my experience living abroad, going to Parsons School of Design, the best fashion, I don't want to brag, I shouldn't, but it is arguably one of the best fashion schools in the world. And I had 5 years of business experience in China in fashion. And then I came back here with a local salary. And of course, I had a head of department salary, so that was actually enough to sustain me. But at the same time, it was a young company that we had a lot of directors running around, and I'm older than a lot of them actually but they are foreigners and things like that, so they're definitely making a lot more than I am. So at some point I was just like, I don't see myself doing this very long. After a year, maybe a year and a half, I built the team, I built a very good system, and I'm very proud of what I left behind at the company. I left, but again, I'm going to discuss that in another episode. My gosh, stay tuned. I have so much to share. My experience working there was phenomenal. I learned so much, and I want to share that with you someday. But then I was financially independent at the time when I was working there. I actually had a little tiny apartment there because it's too far away from where I live. My parents live an hour away from the city center, maybe 2 hours if it's traffic jam. So I had a little apartment there, and I had a really good social life. I gymed every day. It's a metropolitan living, basically. And yeah, things started going a little bit weird from there. I resigned thinking that I would get job offers because of my previous qualifications. I interviewed for Disney. They didn't get back to me. And I was trying to look for jobs overseas. And again, I quickly realized that it's not so easy for us to find work overseas unless, of course, we're already living overseas or if we had referrals. So I was jobless for half a year, and my savings burnt right through. That was gone very fast. So I decided to do a photo studio, and my clients would be fashion brands, and we would help them take pictures of their clothing. The way it worked is that we would hire a model, we had a team, and would cram as many clothing as possible. And we had, the standard white background, but we had different creative input depending on the brand. So this way we can offer the good price per item. We shot the clothes per item for the customers. And that business did really well. So I did, loan some money from my parents, which I haven't returned by now. I'm so sorry. But it's not a lot of money, but it's just a computer and a camera, basically. That's how simple it was. I learned everything from ground up. So in that business, I was a photographer, I was doing marketing, I was doing retouching. Oh my gosh, and the work hour was crazy, but the money was very good. So I did do that for about 2 years, and I did start hiring more people, and then I got burnt out. Because the work hours are crazy and things were become very systematic. I felt like I was a robot. It wasn't bringing me joy anymore. And at the time, I was actually, I came up with another business, which is the Seven Sages. It's a natural soap bar. I was actually experimenting. Oh my God, there's a reason. There's a story of how I came up with that business. But again, that's another story. But I started that business from this photo studio money. I basically not laundered, but I turned the money around. And then, I started creating this really great soap bar products, which I really stand by today. It is the best bar soap. I haven't tried every bar soap in the world, of course, and maybe I am a little bit biased, but I've had the best skin in my life. I used to have very, very strange combination skin, oily and very dry and a little bit pimply now and then. And now I just soap up my skin, even my face. I don't need lotion, I don't need serums, I don't need anything. So I just walk out of the shower and I'm fine. So that's how proud I am with this product. And that business actually took off a little bit, the soap business. And now I was running two businesses simultaneously. Both are profitable right from the bat. So yeah, that did okay. I was juggling with it, and I was actually a pretty decent juggle. I was still managing it quite well. I was hiring a little bit more people in the photo studio. And then for 7 Stages, actually took on my business partner. I asked Celine if she wanted to join me, and she has, thankfully, until today. So that business actually has been growing, but it's been stagnant a little bit because of I'm going to discuss it in another video, but for legality reasons, we cannot grow the business unless we had a certain certification. So yeah, from there, I had a lot of, not savings, but basically I had a constant amount of income that I actually started getting into plants right before the pandemic, thankfully, in the middle of 2019. So I don't know if you can see, my other plant channel is called Only Plants, by the way. That is my fourth business. Sorry, my third business, I would consider. So I started collecting plants with the money that I had. I bought, cheap plants, expensive plants, whatever. And I was propagating it. I was learning. I was so interested with styling with them, playing with them. They became a crazy, crazy obsession. So I was running those photo studio and the soap business, and then COVID came, and then we had to basically not shut down, but we had to slow down with the studio. And I hired photographers too at the time, so I was kind of letting go already. My obsession with plants took over, and in the middle of the pandemic in 2020, because we were locked down, I had nothing better to do. I decided to do a YouTube channel called Only Plants, where I share everything that I've learned within the year time. I learned so much about plants, and I'm not going to talk much about plants in this channel because this is not what it. But quickly, my number one income became YouTube, actually, surprisingly, because I was actually earning a worldwide audience, like an American, European, and then the ad revenues that were coming in were also from, stronger when they're overseas. When you convert that to Indonesian currency, which is very, very weak, we have one of the weakest currencies, it amounted to quite a bit of money. So I was doing that. So I had 3 businesses. And then the 4th business is that I decided to propagate and sell my plants. And that's a challenge too. Right now the plant market is so gloomy. Oh my gosh. But it's a challenge that I'm fixing now. And I don't know if I'm going to share it in this channel, but I'm going through some transitions now. So everything's actually profitable. If you look at all these 4 business structures, like I don't really have stock or anything. So I didn't have any fixed running costs or anything. It was actually running well for me. And then number 5, my 5th business would be my potting mix. So I created potting media for plants that I have designed and have worked really, really well for my plants. And that took off as well. So that me and my other business partner, Jeff, is doing that even today. So yeah, that is how I came to be financially independent. I think the hammer, what do you call it? The hammer on the table, the crack of the whip. Basically, the decisive point was when I actually had a fallout with my dad about 6 months ago, because I was living with him throughout COVID, and my businesses were run at his home, and it's a really big home. It's a very luxurious home. It's a very nice home, but I've never felt like I belonged there. Another video to talk about for another time. But I had a disagreement with him because things got messy. They were like, I was duct taping. I was working, packing and shipping. They were packing things all over the place. There was plant soil sometimes that were on the floor, because I was literally running from place to place, trying to work. And the house was so big that for me to be productive, to handle my soap business, because I was actually producing soap by myself. I was packing and making it in the kitchen actually. And then there was a huge garden area where I was propagating the plants and filming my YouTube. The house was so big, my work became very inefficient. I was unhappy, and my dad was very unhappy with me. I decided to move out, and I wouldn't say we had an argument, because I'm not the kind of person that argues or holds any grudges or anything, but we were clearly in a situation where we can't keep going on like that. So I actually, in January, I bought a house. It was a little bit emotional as well, but it was time. People bought homes when they were in their mid or late 20s. My friends, literally all of my friends did better than me financially. So I don't consider myself successful by any means. So I paid for the down payment of the house, and then I still have monthly payments to make for it. And honestly, even just my YouTube income alone covered the home payment. That is how thankful I am for my plant channel. And then, because the house wouldn't be ready until the next year, and the argument just started becoming, it happened very quickly. I decided to move out. So I rented 2 homes, which is where I am now, and I have another house that I rented within the same compound here. And that one's a studio for plants and my other works. And here is basically where I live. I work right here. I spend maybe 8 hours, 10 hours a day on this table. This is where I eat. There's no furniture in this house. There's no couch. I'm here with my little dog. She's sleeping over there. And yeah, so there's a lot of money that I'm bleeding now. And also I bought a car. I'm not bragging by any means, not a nice car, but I bought a car also in January, because I was expecting just this move, just this, like getting out of the house where I'm no longer, reliant on my parents, my dad for, living expense, food, and his car. I was using his car this whole time. I should have mentioned it, sorry. I was actually using his car this whole time. He got me a car. That was a family car actually, but specifically because all of us had one car. And I'm really thankful for my dad, and I think, I don't know, I never really confronted him about the move, maybe he felt relief, maybe he felt heartbroken. It was mixed feelings for me when I left, but I was so proud now that I am living completely 100%, with my own, I still don't earn a lot of money. For someone, and I don't want to be arrogant again, I kept apologizing. For someone with my background, with my work experience, with the quality of work that I do, honestly, I don't think I earn very much at all. I have friends who are much younger than me, who are way more successful. Again, everybody's definition of successful is different. I actually don't define success with money. So in case it's not clear to you yet. So I live a very, very simple life now. I don't eat at expensive restaurants. I don't buy nice things. I can't afford them, to be honest. So yeah, I am living this financial independent life. This is how I got here. And there's a lot of insecurities with my businesses now, because I'm actually shutting down the studio. I couldn't stand it, and there was actually a lot of emotional drama going on. There's a lot of group chats in that studio, and yeah, we're gonna talk about that in another video, but I let that go. But yeah, there's the future financially is not set in stone yet for me. And now with like the economy, like with Russia and stuff, I don't know where we're going in this world. It's crazy, but I am very thankful, in the past 2 years over COVID. I know that a lot of you guys have suffered over COVID. You've lost jobs and livelihoods, but COVID has enabled me to become financially independent, to make a living, to discover new skills, new joy, to meet new people, set up new businesses. And now I'm learning to prioritize and learning to plan and hopefully delegate. Sorry, that's a lot to offload onto you in one video. It's gonna be, I'm pretty sure this is a long video, but there's a lot to cover in this channel. Stay tuned. I will be sharing more of my experiences in details. Yeah, so I guess thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.